And of course, I lived in a family where nobody talks about anything, and they have always swept things under the rug. And if you don't like what is going on, you make up a story, you make up a lie, and then you believe your own lies.
Hello, you are listening to NPE Stories. This is a podcast where NPEs can share their story. I am your host, Lily, and I found out I was an NPE through an ancestry DNA test that changed my life forever. NPE is a term that stands for not parent expected or non-paternal event. This means that one or more of our parents are not who we believe them to be. NPE Stories is a podcast where NPEs can share their story of what their original family was like, how they found out they were an NPE, and what their journey has been like since the day they found out. Welcome to episode 53, and today I am speaking with Annette. Hi, Annette.
Hi, Lily.
Thank you for doing this today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I just pulled up your blog. You sent it to me this summer. I had read it then, and I was rereading it today. You mentioned to me that this kind of was your form of therapy. Are you a writer? This is really well written.
I am. Actually, I write professionally, as well as the blog is for me. I do use a pseudonym because I am a therapist, and I don't want my clients to worry about me. So I don't really give them access to all of my personal information, but it does enable me to express myself, which is really very helpful and has been very helpful through this whole experience.
What is the name of this blog? Do you mind sharing that?
I don't. It's Ancestry Discoveries, and the name of the writer on there is Alexandra A. Barry.
And that's you.
That's me.
Oh, you're also a therapist.
I am.
I bet you are busy in our current world right now.
Very busy.
Wonderful. I'm glad we have people like you. We need it.
Why, thank you. I love what I do.
Let's hear your story today. You know the format. Why don't you go ahead and start at the beginning and let me know what your original family was like?
Okay. Well, I went through years of therapy myself to reconcile my original family. I was closest with my dad as a young child, and he was my nurturing parent who always taught me to stand up for what I believe in. And I understand as an adult why my mom took a while, to warm up to me, I think. But eventually I would say that she made some peace within herself. And then somewhere we were, we became the best of friends. She taught me a whole lot. They were both very awesome grandparents to my 3 kids. And then when all of this happened, I thought one of the best ways to really tell you about my original family was to tell you about their reactions to things. My oldest sister's response was, well, how do you think I feel? The next one hasn't talked to me since my parents died because she has her own issues. My other sister sang Love Child, Never Meant to Be. She said, you're still talking to those people. She made negative references to me being Jewish because she's a little bit of a bigot. But she was also the same person who, as a child, used to threaten to take me to the cemetery and chain me to a gravestone if I didn't behave myself when she was babysitting. Mm-hmm. So she and the oldest of the family knew something about the situation, but decided to sweep it under the rug and then backpedal when it all came to light again, and I called them out on it. Mm-hmm. And then my brother, who kind of left home from this whole situation, pretty early on, he got away from all of us. He was really the only compassionate one. And I waited a whole year to tell him because I really had to reconcile this whole new situation within myself. And he made a whole lot of small talk like, oh, well, please pass the spaghetti. And then I think he kind of like went into shock and he said, I can't even imagine how you must feel. Like he just stopped dead in his tracks. And actually, it was a pretty sweet surprise considering how the others reacted. I never looked like anybody I never looked like any of them. And then whenever I would do or say things, you know, or even the career path that I chose, people would habitually ask me, where on earth did you come from? As far as the rest of it, my dad played Santa Claus, and I was one of his elves. He was actually Santa Claus for 50 years, and everybody always equated him with Santa Claus. And my parents were, they were both very giving people, and I miss them every single day. My mom was a sharp, funny, witty businesswoman. She always worked outside the home. And my dad was kind and funny and never had a bad word to say about anyone. And he was a very gentle soul. And I was born when my mom was in her 40s and bonded more with my parents than with my siblings. And for the most part, my siblings have habitually had parties and left my name off the guest list for most of my life. And I'm the youngest of 5 and described as a built-in babysitter. And I was called a spoiled brat. There was a lot of name calling going on. I believe that was because I was the last one to be born in a family with a mom who had her own emotional baggage to contend with. So my siblings were caretakers of sorts, and they really didn't belong in that role. My extended family has been very supportive through all of this. And not everyone knows, but a lot of them do. I haven't told everybody. My cousin on my dad's side still told what she said to me, I thought was very sweet, is it doesn't matter, you're still my cousin. Yeah.
When did your parents pass?
My dad died in 2002, and my mom died 18 months later in 2004.
And I know we haven't gotten into it yet, but I'm assuming you never spoke with them about your DNA discovery.
No,
No.
nope.
Okay, so how did you find out you were an NPE?
We were in Hawaii with a friend who found out she had a long lost sister. And she asked me if I would go to lunch to meet her sister. And I said, of course, as she had just lost her wife, and I wanted to make sure that this sister was not some charlatan trying to take advantage of her. Mm-hmm. So we all met in Tarpon Springs when we got back from Hawaii, and we had a wonderful day. She had a friend of hers along too, so there were a few of us together. And her new sister showed us how Ancestry worked. And 2 of the 3 of us went home and ordered our kits because we just thought it would be, really fun. Let's do this. I was going, it'll be fun. Maybe I'll find a nice sister. I laughed, and my friend said, yeah, the rest of your sisters are jerks, so maybe you would. Ha, ha, ha. My cousin who works on genealogy actually told us that we had Native American blood originating somewhere up in Canada. And I knew very little about my dad's family, who was from Sweden and from Canada. So I thought it would be fun. And because I love to travel, I thought maybe I could connect with my dad's family because I grew up around my mom's family. I also didn't look like anyone, and I thought maybe my dark skin was from somewhere else. Like Sicily and Italy and the Mediterranean blood that they forgot to tell me about. Yeah, but I digress. So I spit in the tube, and on April 7th, 2018, I received an email that told me that my results were in. So I pulled up, what my lineage was. I called up my one sister, and because we reconnected for a short period of time, and I informed her that we were Italian and Jewish. And I told my brother-in-law the next call that I made, that we were African American because they're bigots, and I thought that would spice up their relationship a little bit. Yeah, I'm a little evil sometimes. After I hung up, I looked at the list of family names, and I saw my mom's family and then the names that were all Italian. And I didn't see my dad's family on there at all. So I called Ancestry and had a very kind man on the other end of the phone who suggested I contact the second cousin who showed up on the list. So I don't know how, but he knew who I was looking at on this list. And I suddenly started to sob. I started to sob like a baby. And all I kept saying I said, you mean the man that raised me is not my biological father? I was pretty much inconsolable. And he just said, you might want to contact this man, because I kept saying this is a mistake. And to be honest with you, that there was so much of that time that was so much of a blur. And when I called my sister back, I begged her to take a DNA test, and she wouldn't do it, and she still hasn't. And I just kept saying, this is a tragic mistake. And I was completely numb. And it was one of the deepest stages of grief that I can actually remember. And I felt like I lost my dad all over again. So I emailed the names on Ancestry, but they wouldn't answer. And then I contacted and connected with another third cousin who was very helpful and understanding. And I even had the wrong man pegged as my father. And then to my surprise, my biological father was 20 years younger than my mother. So my mother is a cougar.
Wait, how many years younger?
20 years younger. So I call up my niece to tell her, because she was like, you got to get another test by somewhere else, which I did. So she's going, go Nana, which like didn't sit well with me, but I laughed, but I still wasn't, I was still in shock. It was traumatic. Anyway, my sister suggested I contact my other sister, who I hadn't talked to in years. And this was when I discovered that these two sisters had discovered a picture of this man named Barry, who my oldest sister actually met. She was the one that said, how do you think I feel? She told the other sister she thought my mother had an affair with him and that he was my biological father because he used to come to the house. So once I saw the picture, because she texted it to me, I stopped looking, because I look so much like this man. And the one sister originally, she was telling me, told the other sister to throw the picture out. And of course, I lived in a family where nobody talks about anything, and they have always swept things under the rug. And if you don't like what is going on, you make up a story, you make up a lie, and then you believe your own lie. So that is, that's the story from what I have heard from the other members of the family. It was swept under the rug and has since been denied. But why would I make that story up? I mean, that's the way it was told to me from my sister. That this picture was found and she was told to throw it away. So then I did a 23andMe test and found a paternal aunt in her mid-80s. And I found another aunt and yet another who was a clinical social worker like me and was in the next town. And people used to tell me I had a twin in the next town who was also a social worker. And I used to laugh, saying, haha, everybody has a twin. Now when people say that, I get a little triggered. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then my sister was the last one that I reached out to. I was reaching out to everybody I could. She's 7 years younger than me. And I think I was protecting her. She thought I was a telemarketer and didn't answer the phone. And then to my surprise, she called me when I was on my way to New Jersey. I was actually going through security at the airport. And while I was up there, I was going up on business. We had dinner. And she said she didn't need a DNA test, that she knew we were sisters the second she laid eyes on me. Yeah, and it was a strange and wonderful feeling to look into my own eyes. And I couldn't sleep. I didn't sleep not one wink that night. In fact, I had to drive back an hour and a half from where I was where I was back down to the Jersey Shore, and then fly back the next morning to Florida. And my new sister, has been one of the best experiences, and I can't even put that one into words. I have a baby sister. And two of my 3 kids met her and her husband in person, and my other son met her virtually. My daughter met my aunts and my sister and my cousins, and it's really been hard with the pandemic because I've been trying to connect with them over the past 2 years, and now I can't travel and spend the time I would like to spend to continue to get to know, where I came from in this family that I never had the opportunity to know because I didn't know about them.
And how did your sister find out about your existence? Was this from the 23andMe test?
No, actually, apparently one of the aunts called my brother, he refuses to, I've never spoken to him, my new brother. And he apparently, I guess his wife had said, if you don't tell your sister and she finds out somewhere else, she's going to be very angry that you didn't tell her. So he forwarded her the email because he was the first person that I actually reached out to. He forwarded her the email and she called me the exact same day.
So one of your new siblings you've connected with quite beautifully, it sounds, but you also
Yes,
have this half brother who you aren't communicating with.
correct. Actually, I've tried communicating with him a few times, but he won't answer me. But I think that's pretty common.
Yes, it is common. It's not fair, but it is common
Hmm.
from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and there's varying degrees, varying reasons for it, I'm sure. I don't know what the reason is in his case. There's only a whole lot of speculation that goes on there.
Yeah. Yes, same. I also have I'm similar situation. I have a half brother who hasn't responded, but yeah, he passed along the information to your newfound sister, and congratulations
Thank you.
on that. That is it sounds like a happy part of your story. Now, how do you think, or do you think your, I guess it would be called birth certificate father, knew that you had a different biological father?
I do. I
Oh,
do.
okay.
I believe that he knew, for whatever reason that resonates with me.
Okay.
And first of all, I look so much like my biological father. I think that my dad probably was very good at going into denial about it, or in and out of denial. There were times my brain keeps going back to my college graduation when he didn't behave like himself at all. His behavior was a little erratic. And the only thing I could think of is that my biological father knew about my graduation and may have been in the vicinity, and that my father was reacting to that. And I believe that this is really only, I'm guessing because I don't know, and just from some of the shows that are now out where there's NPEs in those shows, from watching them, I believe there is a degree of fear that goes into the birth certificate father believing that they might lose their child.
Mm-hmm.
That there's a degree of fear in that. And my dad, I was very close out of everybody in the whole family. He's the one that I was the closest to.
Mm. Yes, you called him a gentle soul. He played Santa Claus every year.
Yes.
You
And I
loved
was
your
his
dad.
elf. I was his elf.
Oh, isn't that sweet?
And I was the last one to kiss him goodbye when he died.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Now, what about your biological father? Is he alive?
Unfortunately, no. So I never, I didn't have a conscious discussion with him that I am truly aware of. But you did read, I'm sure you read The Man in the Mall on my blog, or at least glanced at it and saw the title. But when I
Yes.
was, yeah,
Explain this. Explain this now.
um, it's a little creepy. But but I did tell this story when the first time I ever did a workshop on NPEs, and everybody in the room was kind of silent. And I was in the mall. It was Christmas time, and my boss actually remembers the story because we're friends on Facebook. And I said, "You remember that guy in the mall?" And he said, "Yes, yes." Anyway, I was working in the mall, and it was Christmas time, and it was our first Christmas in this particular office. And I had the opportunity, I offered it because I wanted to do it. I love doing creative things, to decorate the window. And I put snow, and I had all of these dolls. My mom used to collect dolls for me. So I was putting dolls of around the world because it was a travel company. And there's a man staring at me. He's a pretty nice looking man, staring at me. And he just kept staring and staring. And he drew so much attention to himself that my boss and his wife, were up in arms going, "Who is that guy staring?" And because it was a new business and I had left one office to go and work for another one. They thought maybe he was, trying to recruit me to go work for his office, because that's the way it kind of was at that time. People were recruiting. If you worked in the travel business, people were recruiting you all the time.
Mm.
Especially if you knew how to work an airline computer.
Mm-hmm.
So there I was working away, and they were really like back and forth till finally, all of a sudden it's like I looked up and I see this guy staring at me, and he's just got this very far away look staring. So they were, who is he? Blah, blah. They just kept staring, staring, staring. So finally, I kind of made my way through the mall because I didn't care. And he was creepy enough, but it didn't feel like he was, I didn't get like he was sexually interested in me at all. He was just staring. So I went through the mall. It was kind of crowded. I went through the mall and I approached him and I said, do you like it? Because I figured, well, here's my chance. What was I, 20, 21 years old? I wanted to see if he liked my window. It was the first window I ever really, put together. And the man said to me, I like everything you do. And that was all he said. And he didn't look at me in the face. He didn't say anything else. And it was like, oh, okay. And I don't remember too much of anything after that. I just remember very much in the beginning of all of this that memory popped into my head just before I was falling asleep. And I thought, oh my gosh, I bet that was him. And he actually didn't live too far from where I was working.
So do you think that was him now that you've seen his picture?
Yeah. And actually, my sister said that sounds like something he would say.
Oh,
Yeah.
he wanted to see you.
Yeah, but he never told me who he was. For whatever reason, they handled it the way that they handled it. And I'm sure that it was, it was in everyone's best interest, and especially mine.
Did your parents stay together?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. They were married over 60 years when they died.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And now today, I know you have your blog, you have your forms of therapy. It's been a couple years. You have this beautiful new relationship with your half sister. And you're a therapist, so you have a skill set that many people don't have.
Mm-hmm.
But what would you say to a new NPE? What has been helpful for you with your healing?
I would say absolutely some form of therapy and support. I have followed a number of groups online in terms of support groups. I called my original therapist as soon as I found out, in fact, and talked with her, actually more than once, because we're trying to figure out, put all the pieces together with my mother to say what was going on. So this put so many pieces of a puzzle together for me. So somebody new going through this, I would say get yourself some support. Absolutely get yourself a therapist.
Yes.
To deal with, and there's a lot of trauma, and everybody has their own way of going through that grief. There's a lot of grief and a lot of trauma attached to this. But the thing is if you find that you're going through a lot of grief, remember that you have that grief because you have had a whole lot of love to some degree. And whether that is love that's present or was present at one time, and recognize that for what it is, or even if you're grieving the fact that you didn't have love, like recognize that that's the other side of the grief is love.
Mm.
And that you never get over it. And when those people say that to you, it's almost like you have to push it off and say, yeah, right, you too. And how's that working for you? You never get over it, but you get through it. It just takes a lot of time and a lot of work. And if you push it in and you go, oh, this doesn't bother me, tell somebody who really believes that, because I don't believe that. And I think that people who tell themselves it doesn't bother me, for whatever reason, I believe that's denial. And at some point, I hope that you get to, you have the opportunity to really work through it.
Yeah, I hope so.
And I would also say be really mindful of substances, because if one glass of wine leads to 2 glasses of wine or 3 glasses of wine, And if you already have issues with substances, it could lead you into a really dark place. And you may want to, because trauma in the beginning, you're very numb. Sometimes people prefer to stay numb, and you don't want to stay numb.
There's a part of feeling these feelings that you just need to go through, however uncomfortable they are. I'm assuming that 1, 2, 3 glasses of wine numbing it, you're still going to have these emotions come out sideways.
Yes. And there will be people who are supportive, and if you can't find it within, the people that are around you, there are support groups that you can sign on to. There's plenty on Facebook. There's plenty of therapists now out there who understand. If it's 10% of the population, or that's the estimate, 10% of the population, it's going to be something that's up and coming. There's going to be more and more people that are coming out of the closet and are willing to talk about it, so that you too can tell your story. I would say too, one of the biggest blessings for me has been writing, to write letters. I found the last blog that I wrote to my mother, which was really difficult for me to do. But I know that there's more of those coming, and I was told already, because there's a book in the making, that I need to be writing more blogs. So those will be coming out weekly now, but that I need to be writing more of those blogs and need to be coming out more frequently. But I have found that that's been extremely therapeutic. Writing letters to whoever you need to write letters to, never mailing those letters. And I, would say, don't ever mail those letters, but certainly write those letters, and don't ever give up on yourself.
I have some of those letters you speak of on my computer. They have not been sent, but they have been written.
Yeah.
And it was helpful to write them down.
Yeah.
And in my show notes, I will put ancestrydiscoveries.com. But if people wanted to reach out to you, if they want to contact you, how could they do that?
They can, certainly you can, my email address is Annette, ANNETTEL, B as in boy, ECKLUND @gmail.com. You can also go to the website, ancestrydiscoveries.com, and there's a place there where you can, I made sure there's a contact piece in there, so you can certainly send me a note through that. And I think that those are probably the best ways to get in touch with me.
Wonderful. I'll put those in the description as well, if anyone wants to refer to those. Go ahead.
No, I did also, I do have an article that's out on In Session, which is a published for therapists.
What is this called?
It's called In Session.
And actually, I get it. In Session.
In Session, right. It's for the Florida group of mental health therapists. And I actually have published some things on autism as well, because that's really my specialty. And I do have for anxiety, which I have to share this piece. I hope you don't mind.
Oh, go right ahead.
I have an article that was recently accepted by the Journal of Integrative Medicine on the use of weighted blankets for anxiety.
I love a weighted blanket.
Yes. Well, I did some research on it with some colleagues of mine, and that should be coming out. I don't know when it'll be out in printed form, but it was recently accepted by the Journal of Integrative Medicine. So we are thrilled about that one.
Well, thank you for your research and for all that you're doing for the mental health world and the autism world. And also thank you for sharing your personal story with me today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here, Lily.
Thanks again to Annette for sharing today. These stories are here for us to identify with. If you are an NPE that would like to share your story, email npestories@gmail.com. You do not have to give any identifying information. If you are an NPE and would like to share your story, I'd like to hear from you. Subscribe to this podcast to hear more. Come, heal with